Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 8-Minute Movement, Day 11. My name is Rob Gardner. I'm one of the leaders here at the 8-Minute Movement, and we are starting a brand new series this week called Dare to be Different. And the verse that this entire series hinges on is from Romans 12:2. It says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And what we're going to be talking about throughout this week are ways that not only we can be different from the world, but actually cool ways to be different and things that make us better. I think a lot of times we kind of look at being different from the world as this kind of depressing down, oh, the world gets to have fun, the world gets to do this, the world gets to do that, but we have to be the abstaining, boring, you know, just surviving through life, not getting to do anything fun. We can almost get to the point where we envy people in the world. We envy sinners. We envy people that don't have morals and standards that are the same as ours. And in reality, and I'm telling you this from experience, not just saying this because it's a Sunday school answer, it is better to be different. It is better to be good. It is better to take on these things and be different from the world and the way they live. And part of the reason for that is kind of the first topic for today. It's that even though you look at the world and they may look happy and they may sound happy and they may seem like they have all the things they want, in reality, they're not as happy as they look. And so as we get into this week, we have 6 different topics going throughout this week of ways to be different. But today we're going to talk about happiness. And I want to guarantee you this. Just because people look happy, just because people have the appearance of happiness, just because they put a smile on their face at school or at work and they act like everything's going well in their lives, doesn't mean that's the case. And if you don't believe me, just look at your own life. Think about how many situations you've been in where you've gone to school and you've acted happy, or you've gone to church and you've acted happy and you've looked happy, but in reality you were struggling or hurting or dealing with something. And so I want to talk about how you can be different by being happy, because I truly believe that just truly being happy is honestly different from the norm. Truly being satisfied in life is different from the norm. Truly having peace in your life is different from the norm. And so we're going to talk about how you can be different in happiness. Now, my take on happiness goes like this, okay? It starts all the way back in Genesis 1:1. The beginning was God. God created the earth. God created the heavens. Bam, we have Adam. Bam, we have Eve. And we have the Garden of Eden. There was true happiness in the Garden of Eden. In fact, I know a lot of people like to talk about heaven and what it's going to be and what it's not, and you get a lot of differing stories about heaven because of the Book of Revelation, and it's kind of weird and all its symbolism. And when people say, what is heaven like, I kind of like to look back to the Garden of Eden, because that's the first time where, and the only time where humans and God coexisted without sin. And we get kind of a glimpse of the way it was honestly originally intended to be. And then, of course, they eat the apple, they screw things up, they get kicked out of the garden. What happens when they get kicked out of the garden? All of a sudden, they're troubled, they're worried. They realize they're naked and they have to clothe clothes and they're hiding from God. All of this fear and worry and unhappiness come in from the point that they eat the apple and they leave God's presence and they end up in the world and they have to start tending after gardens and coming up with their own food and everything. Everything changed at that moment. And that set a chain of events in play where God had to start planning, and Jesus eventually comes as the answer for sin. And as he comes to die on the cross for us. And what was the purpose of Jesus coming and dying on the cross? So that we could have a way to atone for our sins, so that someday we could get to heaven and get back to this point of being with God and interacting in His presence without sin in our lives. And so it's like one big long circle where we had happiness, we had peace, we lost God, we lost happiness, we lost peace. Jesus came and died on the cross, gave us an opportunity to come to God again, have happiness, have peace. All right? That brings me to John chapter 14. And in John chapter 14, there's a famous verse, verse 6 says, Jesus said, I'm the way, I'm the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father through me. And if you've been in church for very long, you've heard that verse. You may have had to memorize that verse in Sunday school or confirmation or some other Bible-type class. So you know that verse, but look at the context before that. It comes at the beginning of the chapter. Jesus says, do not let your hearts be troubled. trust in God. And Jesus starts talking about how there's a place going to be prepared. He starts talking about heaven, and Thomas asks, how are we going to know the way to go? And this was Jesus' answer: I'm the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. See, what I want to do today is this. We had happiness, we had peace. We sinned, we lost happiness, we lost peace. Jesus came back. He says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Well, what does the Father represent? That communion with God, that happiness, that peace, those things that were available to us, and we were fully enveloped in them in the Garden of Eden, but we lost when we went into sin, and once Jesus died for us, we had the opportunity to get back through having a relationship with Christ. So, I want you to think of this verse this way. So instead of thinking of the Father just as the Father God, but think of it as the happiness, the peace that comes in having that relationship with God. All right? And then look at the verse this way. I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to God's happiness, God's communion, God's peace except through Jesus Christ. All right? And if you look at it that way, then you can look at it this way. I am the way to that happiness and peace. I am the truth of that happiness and peace. And I am the life in that happiness and peace. So let's look at that really quick. 3 ways to get this happiness and be different from the rest of the world. First, I am the way to happiness. Whenever you're in doubt, whenever you are not happy in life, the fastest way to get back to happiness is through Jesus. The fastest way to get that peace is through Jesus. By going back and spending time with Him and getting into that presence of God, for lack of a better word, and getting that peace in your life, that brings you more contentment and more satisfaction than anything else can on this planet. Sure, there's a lot of things we can go to that mask our problems, that make us forget about our problems, that can give us a short-term temporal peace. But it's only in God's presence that we really, truly come to terms with what's going on in our life. And it may be a little bit different for each person. For me personally, it's worship. I'm a worship leader. I love worship. And so when I need happiness, I will put the headphones on. I will drown out everything around me. I will put a worship song on. And I let myself get to that point where I'm connecting with God. I'm feeling God's presence. And it's not that He makes everything go away, but I get a peace about it. I get a strength about it. The things that I don't want to face, I feel strong to face. The things that scare me no longer scare me. The things that I'm worried about, I begin to trust God in them. It's critical to understand this. If you want to be happy, truly happy, not just faking happiness at school, not just ignoring the problems and trying to find temporary pockets of happiness, but true happiness comes when we find Jesus as the way to that happiness. The second thing is the truth of happiness. Jesus is the truth of happiness. His Word, again, when we get into His Word, we find out what real happiness is. I think a lot of times we look at life and we get kind of frustrated. It's like, oh man, my friends get to go do all these things. They get to drink, they get to party, they get to make out, they get to have sex, they get to have boyfriends, girlfriends, all of these things that they're doing, and we look at it and again, we envy the world. We want to do those things because we think that those things are true happiness. And to be honest, there were times in my Christian life where I wondered, why does God say this is bad? Why does God say that is bad? Why can't we do this? Why is these things that are so fun in the moment have to be so wrong? I don't understand. And over time, again, having experienced things, having done a lot of stupid things in my life, and looking back, all the things that I thought were fun, that I thought brought me happiness, ultimately made my life worse. Sure, maybe in the moment it was fun. Maybe in the moment it was exciting. Maybe I got a pocket of happiness, but it didn't sustain me. It left me more dry, more empty, more broken, more damaged, more hurt than I was before I ever entered that situation. And that's how everything in life is. It's not Jesus, okay? It's going to slowly drag you down, pull you out of things. Now, I'm not saying everything on the planet is bad, but you do have to watch the things that you put your trust in outside of Christ, because they will slowly pull you away. They will slowly tear you apart. And the only truth that we can count on is this truth of Jesus and the things that He's told us to do. When He says, do this, don't do this, when He puts those lines in the sand, it's not because He wants us to have this boring, miserable life. It's because He knows. He knows it's a losing proposition. He knows when you enter that thing, however good that moment is, however fun that moment is, in the end, it's never going to be worth it. Happiness comes from the truth of Jesus. And then finally, the life of happiness is in Jesus. And that's just, again, when we live in this life of serving Christ, I have found way more fun and excitement and happiness in serving others, in reaching out and making a difference in people's lives, in getting to be a part of seeing someone come to Christ, seeing someone's life change, of just the smile on the face of somebody that I've helped. Those things are way, 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 way more rewarding than anything the world has to offer. And I don't have time to go into all the things that I've experienced and all the things I've done that were wrong, but just know I've experienced a lot of what the world has to offer. And I'm telling you, if I look at everything that the world's offered and all the bad things I got to experience, and I've looked at all of the fun, positive things that I've done in my life, serving Christ, serving others, making a difference, it's not even close. You want to find happiness, it's the life of happiness comes from living a life through Jesus Christ. So to wrap it up today, you want to be different? Be different. It says don't conform to the pattern of this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. What you want to think about today is how can I transform myself and be different in happiness? How can I find true happiness by finding Jesus as the way and going to Him anytime I'm not happy, by finding Jesus as the truth and understanding that the principles He's teaches, the principles that are in His Word, always will bring us the greatest amount of happiness, and the life of Jesus, that by living a life for Jesus Christ is way more exciting, way more enjoyable, and way more sustaining than anything you can ever do in the world. And so I hope as you're going through the day today, be thinking about that. Come back through us this week. We've got 5 more exciting topics on how you can be different from the world and experience a fulfilling life. My name is Rob Gardner. I'm one of the leaders here at the8minutemovement.com. Thanks for checking this out. We'll see you tomorrow.